Oh, hello. Welcome to my study. I hope you enjoy the change of scenery. So, last time we were talking about karma and samsara. Karma, the principle of action, samsara, the cycle of existence. And I was trying to get into some of the general features and characteristics and actually, honestly, misunderstandings of the way this works within the ontology, the study of being, and the cosmology, the sense of the whole of classical Brahmanical thought in the Upanishads. One of the things that comes from this, though, from karma and samsara, is a problem. It's the problem that plays out in the problem of ignorance and the problem of suffering. But basically, it's the problem that has to do with how to live wisely in this. I mean, think about this. If the way in which we come to understand the world, the way in which we think about the world, is always through this lens of activity, of change, of flux, of flow, of rising and falling, of appearing and disappearing, if everything that we know and everything we take as real is wrapped up within this and seen through this and encountered through this, this can create a real problem, can't it? I mean, I use the phrase perpetual perishing for a very specific reason. There is a sense that everything we know, everything we care about, everything that we love is always in a state of flux, of passing away, such as we know it, in the manner that we know it. Now, this in and of itself need not be a problem. The problem comes when we realize that we are, in fact, ignorant of what this principle of change is. You see, we take the individual specific thing as being real, rather than the underlying condition that makes it possible as being real. This ignorance of the absolute underlying reality of things, the ignorance of what allows us to know that there is such a thing as a thing, what allows there to be a thing at all, and consistently for there to be a thing, despite the fact that it goes from one place to another place to another place to another place, the way Julius Caesar's air molecule did, or our thoughts do, or events do, or whatever. This ignorance, there's a word for this. This ignorance is called avidya. Avidya. A-V-I-D-Y-A. Avidya. And like I said, this is not ignorance about specific things. This isn't a matter of not knowing how many grains of sand there are in the world or what the capital of Texas is. I'm sure you all know. It's Austin. Right. Congratulations. It's not that kind of ignorance. It's ignorance about the underlying principle of what allows things to be possible. And this ignorance, in turn, generates a peculiar condition, a peculiar, I don't know, phenomenological situation in the mind and in the world called Maya. Maya, this is a tricky word in Sanskrit. Maya, it literally means magic, but it's not any sort of magic. It's the magic of illusion. It's the magic of the magician pulling the rabbit out of the hat, or the magic of the magician sawing the lady in half, apparently sawing the lady in half. It's the deception of the eye, the optical illusion, right? Well, that word, that concept, is used to describe the way in which our ignorance of the world and our ignorance of the fundamental necessity of samsara and karma acting in the world makes it seem as though the reality of things is passing away, that everything is in fact perpetually perishing. Because here's the thing. Here's what we're going to be getting at within this. And this is one of the central issues to deal with when we're talking about classical South Asian thought. Nothing ever disappears. Nothing ever dies. Nothing ever is born, truly. What changes is simply the various illusions of the way in which things seem to be real. What consists, what persists, what stays, is that underlying reality. That there is a continual possibility for things being at all, even though they go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, is the fundamental reality of things. And when we can come to identify all things with this unchanging reality, when we can recognize that everything is what it is, not because it's separate, not because it has its own distinctive identity, but actually because of the way in which it stands, the way in which it is, the very fact that it is, right? This is when we begin to see reality as reality. Now, there are two terms that I want to introduce to you with regard to this. And these terms they're a little bit tricky because they're synonymous with one another. They indicate the same basic reality, but they point to different, if you like, approaches to this reality. Actually, a couple of the Upanishads are going to talk about this. The first word is Brahman, Brahman. And I'd like to make sure you realize the word Brahman is not Brahma, which is a god, the god of becoming and creation, and not a Brahmin, which is a priest. It's Brahman, like Brahman, Brahman. Brahman is, for lack of a better word, absolute reality. It is something that cannot be described directly, because to describe it directly is to begin to put parameters on it, definitions on it, distinctions on it, and whatever else it would be, that wouldn't be it, right? Rather, Brahman is famously put as the one without a second, right? The underlying condition that makes it possible for things to be real, to be present. It is the presence of presence, as it were. The fact that for something to be, whether it seems to change from one state to the next, whether it is in fact a transition, in fact is just this common reality. So that's the first term, the first quality that is being obscured by our ignorance and the trickery that comes from this ignorance, this Brahman that we're looking through. That is the foundation. Maya is the water, and ignorance is the light that seems to pass through it. The second term I want to bring up is a term that you're going to come across again and again in the Upanishads, Atman. Atman means true self. Now this is especially coming from a Western perspective, and even actually within the sort of colloquial, common Hindu perspective, we need to be characterized here. When you say true self, this does not mean your soul or your spirit. No, that's not accurate. The reason why it's not accurate is because what we're talking about here is the underlying condition that makes it possible for there to be such a thing as a self at all. In other words, Atman, and this is famously said on a number of occasions, Atman is Brahman. It is Brahman, and Brahman is Atman. The true self is the absolute. This means that the true self, that is me, that is you, that is Obama, that is George Washington, that is the child that died 4,000 years ago in some faraway place. That is the ant that you see crawling across the floor. That is anything. And that is the child that will not be born or has not yet been born. All of these share the same true self. All of them have the condition for the possibility of being as being insofar as they are Brahman. This is the Atman that they are. You, I, and all other things in being what they are Atman. We share the same Atman. So don't ever think of this, we're going to hear this a lot, the true self. When you read this, when you hear this, and I really want to make sure you understand this, because you'll misunderstand the Upanishads if you don't get this. The true self is not like a spirit or a ghost inside of you. It's not your underlying individual essence. There's actually a term for that, the jiva. The true self is Brahman, is the underlying, unchanging, absolute, boundless reality that makes reality possible. It is the reality of reality. This is the true self. And it is towards understanding what this is, being able to find this quality, this reflection of selfhood, this commonality of all things, right? In all people, in all living things, in all being itself, being able to find the sense that that is you. That's actually a famous saying that you're seeing in the Upanishads. Tattvamasi. That is you. That is what you are looking for. It is through that, seeing that, understanding that we ultimately are able to overcome the ignorance, see through the magic and mystery of the world, and begin to undo this problem of suffering. Okay, more in a second.